If you're planning your very first cruise or possibly thinking about it, this video is exactly what you need. From packing tips to onboard secrets no one's telling you about, I'm breaking it all down to make your first cruise unforgettable and stress-free if possible. So, before we dive in, I am Taishita. I am the founder and CEO of Luxury Travels by Dreamy Designer Events, where I help travelers curate elevated experiences worldwide, guide entrepreneurs and brands through unforgettable retreats and global getaways. With over a decade of experience in 20 plus countries, I've had with over a decade of experience in 20 plus countries under my belt, having sailed on multiple cruise lines myself. Let me tell you, cruising can be one of the most rewarding ways to travel if you're prepared for it, which is very important. So let's get you cruise ready and in style. So let's dive in. So for first time cruise tip, things of that manner, cruises is a lot of things to know. What type of cruiser you are or want to be if you've never cruised before. Every cruise line has its own vibe. Want family friendly, you may love something like Royal Caribbean, want more elevated experience, then you can do celebrity or virgin voyages. Luxury, there's cruises like Oceania or more of like a Viking cruise. It just depends on the type of experience you're looking for. If you want something that kind of meets midways versus family friendly, can also have that step up where you can do a more elevated experiences, then you have a cruise line like Norwegian. It also depends on the type of cruise you're going on. So some of them you may not need as big of a ship if you're going to places that you're hitting multiple destinations each day. If you're traveling with like more of like a multi-generational type of crew, and that could be either with his family or even if you're planning a group experience. So sometimes I've had clients where they may do like a corporate function, but they're allowed to either bring a significant other or their family. So they want something that can gear to adults, but also can gear to the other people who are traveling so that if everyone's having a good time, then there's no worries. If you're not sure what fits, that is exactly why we do consultations because we really hone in on what type of experience you're looking for, what type of travel you are, or that you want to be if you haven't done it yet, just so you can make sure it's tailored to the experience that you're looking for with your energy, your goals, and your travel style. Second thing is to make sure you book early, like way early. So cruises actually come out majority of the time about a year and a half in advance, some are 2 years. This is the best thing you can do. And there's a few reasons why. The earlier you book, the better the stateroom you get in terms of location and pricing. If you wait, you might either end up with a room under like the nightclub, a more louder part of the cruise ship, or if you want to be closer to the elevators, or you want to be something depending on what may be limitations, or you just want to be more of a convenient area, that also, which is why we stress so importantly. Plan early. If it's early, it makes one thing off of your list, and all you're doing is waiting for the cruise to come around, and you have nothing to worry about. Plus, with bonus of booking early, usually get you extra perks. So sometimes they'll have promotions like onboard credits, beverage package, Wi-Fi. Sometimes they even have better pricing when you book early because when you wait until it gets closer, or even sometimes the year prices may go up, or even if the price, like the base price itself, go up with their promotions, you're locked into the rate that you originally had booked. So any additional perks, any additional pricings that you got saved on, you're definitely set to make kind of like the most out of it, but also if you're getting the same thing you could have gotten, 6 months ago and you booked it 6 months later, then why not? Plus, they have a lot of options to make sure that you can choose the cruise that fits you. Because sometimes if it's a more popular cruise line, a more popular cruise itinerary, they tend to fill up faster. So if you wait closer, either they may only have higher level rooms left or they may be completely sold out. And then you're kind of stuck with another date or time that you may have to try to maneuver or find something that may be like your next best per se. Another most important thing, which I tell people all the time, is don't forget travel protection. I know some people like it, some people don't. It really depends on the company. I'm gonna be honest with you. However, it's I always try to tell people it's like one of those things. It's great to have it and not need it, but the problem is when you need it, you really wish you would have had it. And there's a few things in line to this. This goes down to if you're flying in from somewhere, any flight delays, flight cancellations, because that cruise is leaving regardless of whether you're on it or not. If anything happens medical wise, we all always want to say, I'm going to go regardless, give me some, crutches or whatever, I'm going to go. However, there are some situations that you may not be able to. There could be close relative families that are sick and you're not able to travel. There's an array of different things that could possibly happen. And I always tell people it's always that peace of mind, especially considering the fact that anything can happen. That's one less thing you have to worry about if you have it. And again, like I said, it also depends on the company. I have worked with an array of company. I do have kind of like my top companies, which I can always go into that later. But it had the ones that I normally recommend because I've just seen that when we've had clients, I've had situations, things of that matter that goes with baggage delay. Back on that even goes if you have a connecting flight and something happens and the original flight is delayed, it's the connecting flight. There's so many different ways around it. I always say to kind of get that peace of mind, please, like one of those things where you say, don't leave a home without it. Don't leave for your trip without it. And make sure you check your travel documents. Oh my word. I tell this to my clients so many times, and we even do consultations before departing to make sure everything is good from beginning to end. But this is very important because if you have any questions, if there's anything that is missing or whatever, if you check it early enough, you can make sure you have everything before you actually travel. If you're on your plane or if you're heading to the airport or if you're about to get on the cruise line and you check it and then you realize something's either missing, something's a mistake, anything of that manner, you're almost kind of like too late or you're going to be a delayed process. I tell people you're better off to be over prepared per se and to make sure whichever travel document you're using, it's also valid. This is also another one. It happened a lot more around during COVID because a lot of people weren't really going too many places, or if they were, it was, limitations on how far they were going, certain places you were able to go to, certain places you weren't. But it's very important. If you're having a passport, make sure your passport is valid. If you're traveling with your government ID, your real ID, making sure that it's not expiring, things of that manner. If you're traveling where you have to fly domestically within the US, definitely don't forget after May 7th that did go into effect. So to alleviate any additional wait times at the airport, because airport traveling has been higher, making sure you have either the real ID, if that's the one that has the star on it, or if you have a passport, make sure your passport is good. If you're leaving outside the country, normally it is recommended. Majority of places are 6 months, some are a little bit shorter, but the unanimous, I would just say to make sure that you're good for 6 months so you don't run into any problems. If you do have your passport, plus again, this is why it's good to check it early because if you see any of those documents are expiring, about to, or you have questions, it gives more than enough time to make sure you're over prepared versus under prepared. Pack smart. You're not just going to one place. So it's not like where you're just like, okay, I'm in this one place for a few days and then no. Make sure you bring layers depending on the time of year you're going. Remember, you're also on a cruise ship. So they're going to make sure, especially if it's warm outside, they're going to have air conditioner inside the cruise ship. So sometimes you may want to bring like a thin cardigan, something that you can probably put on in case you get cold. Sometimes, if you're like me, most of the time I'm hot. Once in a blue moon, I make it a chill. But if you want to make sure you have it versus being there like, ooh, it's a little bit chilled and I only got tank tops, you just kind of want to prepare for it. If you're going somewhere where you think it's going to be a little bit more colder outside, it's probably going to be warmer in the cruise ship because they want to make sure you're comfortable. So those are things, just make sure you pack what you need and those kind of, I say, optional pieces, just in case you're like, oh, I don't want to forget that. Also, when it comes to if you have any bags, pocketbooks, backpack, I normally recommend, especially when you're doing excursions, going off of the boat, if you want to do like a crossbody, Makes it easier. You don't have to lug around a huge pocketbook or a huge bag in your hand. You can put it right around, right over your arm, right over your shoulder and have it. And you can have all your stuff. Plus, it's easy to manage because you can just keep it in front of you. Or if you're going like to the beach or things like that, bring a backpack so that you can have everything in the back. Again, alleviating having to hold something in your hand. Or if you happen to like go somewhere, you put it down, forgetting it. Trying to make it as easy as possible, but these are things you can interchange with for each of your days. So you don't have to worry about, oh, wait, I have to bring a separate one. Obviously, for us girlies, we like to color coordinate a lot. So that is definitely something you want to have different color cross bags. I won't complain. But those are just different tips to make sure you have it in planning ahead, putting in your suitcase, taking full advantage of all of it. Another thing too is sometimes if you're going for a special occasion, even if you're going for a work event, conference, retreat, things of that manner, sometimes you're celebrating things on there. So sometimes people are celebrating anniversaries, honeymoon, birthdays, things of that manner. The doors on the cruise are magnetic. So a lot of times people will buy like different things to kind of decorate it to make it feel more festive. So they have birthday ones. They also have ones you're just celebrating life itself and you want to be perfect and you want to be like all the pizzazz because it makes it like we see all these like plain doors and then when you have the ones that have finished like, oh, these are nice. They have so many different designs, so many different things. I have clients that literally are like, okay, this is when they're going, they decorate their door, take pictures of it. It's actually pretty fun. And it's nice too. It's something different, but also it kind of adds again to the experience of where you are, what you're doing, and everything in that manner. A few other things that I always tell people is always good. Sometimes, especially if you've never cruised before, always plan ahead and bring like motion sickness. They have medicine and they also have patches. Make sure you bring something just in case because sometimes people are not sure if they get seasick. Sometimes people have been on like smaller boats and it hasn't been that bad. Most of the time when you're on the ship, it feels like literally you're in like a huge resort on sea and and it's kind of like you're like, oh wait, I am actually moving. Sometimes if they have high winds or if they're coming back and they're going a little bit faster, sometimes you'll feel the boat moving a little bit. But again, I've been on it, I haven't, but I also know people who they've been on it, they've been perfectly fine. And then also on the other hand, of them being on it and then they were not perfectly fine. So I always tell people plan ahead, it doesn't hurt. But if you have it with you already, then you don't have to worry about either trying to see. Most time the cruise ships do have it, or you have to go to like they do have like a medical facility on board. But if you already have it with you, again, it's one of those things. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and feel very sick and trying to also find it at the same time. So a few other things. They do have lanyards that you can actually, because when you're on the ship, everything majority of the time is pretty much cashless. So it's your room key. So your room card, that's pretty much is what gains you access into your rooms. It also is what gains you access if you're buying anything on the ship, it just gets to the room. A lot of times, if you do and get any of the packages, so that could be either the drink package or if you get like a soda package, anything of that manner, they may ask you for your room key when you're getting it. But if you already have the package, you're not actually charged for it. So a lot of times, people have a different way so that you don't have to bring like a bag or a pocketbook around the cruise line. You can actually get really cute lanyards. They have solid color ones, design ones, and you can actually just put your room key in there. It's really nice, it's easy, it's very lightweight, but it also makes it easier for you to be able to have your hands free, enjoy your time, but also always know where you're, especially if you don't have anything that has pockets in it or things of that manner. It's kind of one of those things where it's great to have it so that you can be a little bit more ease while you're there. And the other thing is just making sure when you're, I should say, and per se, when you're actually planning what you're going to wear. You can plan a little bit of it, but also just make sure things either you have things that can layer up or layer down, just so that you can kind of cover your bases, just in case you happen to be visiting multiple different cities or different countries. In one country is like spring, and another country is like winter. So sometimes it's not that drastic, but if anyone knows weather lately, weather is kind of its own personality. So it's always one thing I tell people, make sure you pack accordingly and things of that manner. Also, another thing is just to make sure you have like all of your chargers, make sure you have anything you would typically need when you're at home, whether you're charging, you have a camera, your phone, tablet, computer, whatever you're bringing with you, make sure you have your charger. That's so important. They actually really have really nice travel ones that actually has like it's like a cube and they have multiple ports and multiple plugs on one device. So I always tell people if you, and I don't know if you ever, if you were in our giveaway we did, I think it was like last year or at the end of last year, that was one of our things, but it's actually pretty much a cube. It's amazing. Honestly, I don't go anywhere without it. It has USB, it has Type C, it also has regular plugs, and it's a cube. So you have one cube, some of them even come with a case. You take that with you, and that counts for like pretty much any type of plug you need. So, say for example, if you're there and they may only have like two plugs on one side of the room and then maybe one plug on the other, and you have like four devices you're trying to plug in, you can just bring the cube, plug everything into there, and then you have everything in one spot. Honestly, it's like game changer. Next thing is make sure you download the Cruise app. I know everyone's not really app people. Most people are. It's very, very important. Pretty much almost all the cruise line have their own app. If they didn't have it previously, even if you have cruise a long time ago, most likely you have it now. These apps are not only information on the cruise line, also on the ship. It actually has detailed information, things of that manner. And some of them actually have it synced. So when you hook to the cruise's Wi-Fi when you're on board, it actually syncs and it knows that, okay, you're on board the ship. So then it actually will sync to like giving you updates in terms of like, I know Norwegian, they actually give you updates where you actually can see activities happening, entertainment during that day, dining that's open. So it makes it a little bit easy to be connected while you're also still disconnected, if that makes sense. Also, it has shows. You also can book dining experience, and as well if there's any is anything that's a paid experience while you're on the ship, they'll also go over that as well. So like I said, if you do it ahead of time, it makes it so much easier because sometimes when you're on the ship, especially if you already sailed and you're at sea, it makes it much harder to actually get the app without trying to have like international charges, all those extra data, internet, all that stuff, just to kind of make it a little bit easier. Excursions, which are one of my favorite things, especially because this is like your best way of experiencing where you are when you guys stop on port. So the excursions, I highly recommend checking them out before you go. This is so important. Tell my clients, some of my clients who cruise all the time, especially if they're cruising an itinerary that's either similar or something they did before, you don't necessarily always have to do excursion unless there's something different that you want to do there. However, if it's a place you've never been before, your first cruise, even with me, I've been on multiple cruises. I always like, unless I have an intent, unless my intention is mostly to kind of like rest and relax, and it's like maybe if I'm feeling like I want to do something, but if I'm going like to vacation, I'm gonna be booking some excursions, best believe. So excursions are so important. I say in advance for two reasons. For one, if there's anything you really want to do, book it in advance. It's one thing you have to worry about while you're on the ship. You already have paid for it. Again, it's making your life as seamless as possible. I normally do a couple of consultations, especially for my cruise clients beforehand for those who want to do excursions, because we'll walk through it. We handle all the concierge, all that part for them. But definitely is something I really recommend because it's it's one of those things where they have so many of them, and sometimes people are like, really want to do this, book it. And for my second reason, it goes an extension to that because also if there's something you really want to do 9 times out of 10, somebody else on that cruise wants to do it too. And you're on a ship full of thousands of people. 9 times out of 10, if you wait till you get on that ship, that cruise is going to be sold out because they only have a certain amount of spots per time, per cruise, and then you're kind of like left with either settling for something else or just not doing anything. Now, if you don't book any excursions, you can still get off of the ship, enjoy yourself, things of that manner. However, it's just a little bit different. You're walking around, you may be able to see some of the sights. I typically tell people, unless you're familiar with the grounds, you can walk around. Don't go too far off because obviously you have to be back at that cruise the time they tell you because that cruise will leave without you and you don't want that to happen. So my other part of that too is everyone does it a little bit different. My personal recommendation is I am not 100% comfortable with when I go off of the cruise ship. They have a ton of people, and a lot of people are booking. You can book different variations of different tours and excursions with them right when you offer them. Most of them are independently owned, some of them are not directly like partnership with the cruise line. You're doing it at your own risk, if I'm being honest with you, because I personally, I don't do it, and I don't normally recommend it. It's for a few reasons. One, the biggest one of them all is safety. A lot of them are completely fine. Some of them are. However, some of them aren't. And it's kind of like you're playing Russian roulette to figure out, am I good with this one? Am I not? Things of that manner. Also, another thing is when you go on these ones, especially ones not operated with the cruise line, you have to make sure you're back at that cruise. So if they're taking you around the island, if they're taking you sightseeing, if they're taking you to do any type of like anything that's where you're leaving those grounds, you have to make sure that everything is pretty much handled accordingly. And if it's not, then it's a problem because if you miss your time when you have to get on that ship and they get you back half an hour later, 45 minutes later, you are not okay. So again, if you're doing anything with the cruise line, they know what time you have to get back. They make sure you're there at the time, if not way before. And you just alleviate all those additional stress parts of it, which is why I said I recommend either booking it in advance or you can also book them on the ship. So sometimes people are like, I may want to do something, but I don't really care what I do. You can just book it on the ship and just book whatever's available and they have left at that time. I always tell people again, if you do that, maybe try to do it like the day you guys get on the ship so you can kind of at least get that taken care of because guest relations is one of the things, depending on the time of day, depending, there may be a line of some sort most of the time. So if you can plan and you see it where it's a clearing, go to guest relations, book your excursion so you don't have to waste time that you could be doing something else on the ship. And the most important of it all for my last thing is don't try to do it all. I say this because cruising has a lot to offer, but they have a lot to offer for a reason because they have an array from babies up until people who are seasoned travelers, people who are seasoned, just people who cruise a lot, or people who just like to get away. They have it for everyone. So no matter what you're looking to try to experience, they have it there and they have multiple things happening sometimes at the same time. They do that because no matter what someone wants to do, there's always something that you can do. There's always something you can experience, whether it's a lounge, a comedy show. Sometimes they'll do like jewelry information to let you know for the different islands, shopping tips. They also have things that are happening on the boat. So they'll have different raffles and drawings. So they have all these different things. And they're like floating cities. It's kind of like going to a city and trying to see the entire city in one day. It sounds great in theory, but it's going to be very overwhelming very quickly. So it's okay to relax, take a nap, because believe me, multiple times I have been on it. At one time, I was like, oh, maybe it's just me. I've been there with multiple people, and it could be a busy morning, busy afternoon. We're like, we're gonna take a nap before we hit dinner and the evening stuff, things of that matter. It's fine. It's also okay. Sip a drink, relax on your balcony. Like, you don't have to attend every show, every event. If you're like, oh, I really want to do it, but I kind of just want to relax. There's been a ton of things. I'm like, oh, let's do this. Go back to the room. Let's relax. And then I get rest. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna stay relaxing because you know why? I'm on vacation. Why not? I'll sit on the balcony, listen to the ocean, literally just reflect and refuel my empty cup so that again can come back a better version of me and a more relaxed version of me. And find your rhythm. Find what works for you. I always tell people, even if you're going with a group of people, everyone doesn't always have to do everything. Some people may like one thing, some people may like another, and that's fine. There's a ton of things to do. You may be with them in the morning and then join them in the evening or however you want to do it. That's fine. Do what works for you, experiencing it. There's so many different things, and they definitely make sure you're having that full experience regardless of what you're doing. So, and with that, cruising is about creating moments, relaxing, and enjoying, because that's very important, discovering destinations in a way that's easy and immersive. If you're thinking about taking your first cruise, or just want to make sure that your next one is elevated and effortless, we would love to work with you. If you have questions, my team is fabulous. I have some amazing clients, and definitely, like I said, I have people who go on cruises once in a blue moon. I have cruise clients that go on them multiple times a year. And like I said, they offer a little bit for almost everyone. So definitely in the description below has all of our links, how to connect, how to work with us. And definitely, I hope you definitely took away some really good information. There's so much more that it entails because that's just like the tip of it. There's a lot of things in terms of once you have your cruise book, things you need to know to do ahead of time to make sure that you're ahead of the game, to make sure that you're not getting the last spot to check in on the cruise ship. There's so many different things. But that's why we make sure you're taken care of one step at a time. So, with that being said, until next time, keep traveling with purpose and style because luxury is more than where you go, it's how you feel when you get home. Bye. Talk to you later. Until next time, keep traveling with purpose and style because luxury is more than where you go, it's how you feel when you get there. Bye. Until next time.